This baked camembert, I reckon it's the fanciest way of serving camembert ever. It's really easy, it's super delicious, and it really upgrades your camembert or brie. It's also the best way to upgrade some cheaper, less aromatic camembert or brie, and not that it is something that you and I ever would do, but tell you what, you just don't know who comes around, isn't it? Now, it's also a great way to serve camembert or brie if they become a bit overripe and the flavors become a bit disagreeable. When did I come up with that dish? Well, back home in Austria, I had a restaurant. I was the age of 25. I got 18 out of 19 points at Go-Mio. I think I was the youngest chef in the world at that time, and I needed a dish for my in-house guests when they came back from a long summer hike or skiing in the winter. And I came up with this dish using all local ingredients: cheese, wild mushrooms, hazelnuts, herbs. And I reckon it's a stunning Sunday breakfast. At the end of the video, I want to tell you a bit about the amazing history of camembert and brie and how it got so famous. Okay, first get a really good mixture of mushrooms, and the camembert that you use, and if you use brie, it needs to be a whole wheel. It cannot be a wedge, because a wedge will run out in a minute. When I show you, when you put it in the oven at sort of around 50 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit to warm the cheese nicely through. And then you get some mushrooms and you cut them in all sorts of pieces, chunky, big pieces. That's what you want, because you want to have a bit of bite in those things. So here we go, really nice mixture of mushrooms. Next, let's cut up some shallots or onions, whatever you have. You can slice them, you can chop them. And the next thing we then need is also some herbs. So I take some sage. Make sure you pick the stems off. You can leave the leaves whole. You can cut it up. It's up to you. Thyme. The upper part of the thyme where the stems are really soft, you can chop them up as well. And the next thing is some parsley, and check out my video on herbs so you learn loads and loads more about that. And I just sort of pick the stems off and I cut it roughly, because herbs do not like chopping. If you chop herbs too fine, they oxidize. Set that aside too. Next thing is I toasted some hazelnuts. I also have a video on how to roast hazelnuts and how to increase their flavors through the molecular filbert tone. In that case, I just rub it a bit in the cloth, and then all the skins have gone off, and then I crush the nuts just a tiny bit. Now the nuts gonna add a really nice note of bitterness to my dish. Some olive oil in a pan, the shallots go in, season it with salt and pepper, and then just cook the shallots until they get a sort of slight little bit of color. When that happens, you add the mushrooms in, you add your sage in, and you add your thyme in, okay? Then you cook that nicely together. Hazelnut can go in halfway through, and right towards the end, you add the parsley and then some truffles, loads of truffles, loads, seriously. Everything with truffle tastes good. Set it aside. Take the cheese out of the oven, and you can see now it's nice and soft and warm. And then you make a hole in the top of the cheese. You can see now it's really gooey, it's really runny, it's sort of like a semi-cheese fondue. And then you fill in the mushrooms, and you could do that cold or you could do that warm. I love it warm. If I serve it for breakfast, sprinkle the rest around, some fresh herbs on it like chervil, a bit of balsamic glaze to add a bit of acidity to the dish, and it looks pretty amazing. Now you can of course cut the cheese just in half and do exactly the same the other way around. It's really up to you. And again, mushroom confit on the top, and that's my baked camembert. Now, camembert's huge popularity also comes because of its unique packaging. Being a soft cheese, it was naturally difficult to transport and store, in the olden days. And the engineer Eugene Riedel in the late 19th century was credited with the design of those unique wooden boxes we see so often in French cheeses today. Further popularity obviously came when they introduced some really colorful labels about famous people, memory events, that was all printed on a box. And apparently there is now a brotherhood of collectors of camembert labels. I mean, it's not something I will get myself into. But then at the same time, you know, I do love collect other things. So true camembert is actually called Camembert du Normandie. It comes from a region on the north of France. Everything else you get around the world is literally an imitation. And history tells us that Camembert and Brie are very similar, and the reason for that is that a monk who was prosecuted for whatever religious beliefs, I think it was, in the Brie region, he ran away, he found shelter in a farm in Normandy, and as a thank you, he showed the farmer how to make Brie, which then became Camembert. Now Camembert originally was not white like we know it today, it was actually a bit blue on the outside due to the different bacteria in the region, but then in the early 20th century a different bacteria was introduced, and since then Camembert is as white as Brie. In case you ever wondered, those cheeses are almost identical. Let me know what you think, and check out my video on seasoning, and you will realize that this dish is so good because it unlocks all the flavor receptors on your tongues and comes across as a complete tasting dish. Now I hope you don't disagree, so thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next time.